Hi, everyone. This is Vanessa, also known as the International Immigrant, and welcome to my podcast. This is a place where we discuss everything immigration related, from the desire to work in another country for a few years, to test the waters, to studying abroad in the hopes of opening up some opportunities. And of course, full immigration with a cargo container of furniture and a residence visa stamped in your passport. If this is your first time and you want to know who I am and why I started this podcast, please watch or listen to the first episode, as there are both audio and video versions available. Today, I'm going to be chatting to a guest that many of you already know from a few podcasts ago, Derek. He's one of the friends that I met when I was teaching English in Costa Rica. He spoke about teaching English there as well as in Thailand, and about his new venture studying a master's degree in social work in Australia. Today, however, we are going to talk about what it's like to be gay in a foreign country and some of the things that you need to be conscious of, or maybe we were conscious of when we moved to a new culture. So, Derek, thank you so much. It's so good to have you back here.
Hello, thank you for having me back.
Can you give us a quick update on your Australian plans? Like, are you any closer to flying over?
Not yet. So I don't have any like concrete plans yet to get there, but I mean I will be starting studying online in July.
Okay.
But there has been some news for, I think, Victoria and New South Wales. They have there's talk about plans to let international students in, in the next few months, I think. So
Right.
I can only assume that other states will follow. So hopefully the state I'm going to will follow soon.
Very good.
Yeah, so that did give me some hope, I guess, that it will happen sooner rather than later.
Yeah,
So
I hope so too.
it's
I hope so
exciting.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Very.
I'm looking a lot for more information, but
Yeah,
that's
I
where
hope
I'm
so
at
too.
now.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah,
hope so
thank you.
too. So my first question is, do most people know that you're gay before you tell them?
Um, I I think so. I mean, yeah, I feel like I think so. If people talk to me enough, maybe they,
Mm.
usually get the idea that I am. Um, I just feel like, I don't know. I guess I just give off a vibe or something, but or whatever. Yeah, I think so. I kind of assume people do in a way.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think so. I would
because
say yes.
con you know, on the contrary, I don't apparently. Now, I mean,
Okay.
I came out when I was 21. I knew before that.
Mhm.
I just have been who I am for so long, but I know that physically I don't fit this stereotype that in our
Mhm.
culture we have for gay women. I know that because I do come as a bit of a shock to quite a few people, but people who kind of have spoken to me for a while say, oh, maybe I thought so, but generally I don't. So having to tell somebody or coming out in different countries with different people is something that I've had to consistently do for the last 27 years.
Yeah.
Good Lord, I'm old. So has being gay affected you throughout your life in general? And have you actually been the recipient of homophobia in the US, which is your home country?
Yeah, I mean, I think um I guess nothing crazy. I don't have any, you know, crazy stories where I felt like I was in danger or anything, but
Right.
I've definitely had things said to me from
Mm.
people like I didn't even know were looking, or you know what I mean? Like I remember holding hands with someone and someone yelled something at us and I was like, how did you even see us? And it was so it was just, yeah, it was just holding hands, honestly. And yeah, it was, so I've had things said to me, but I've never felt, I guess I've been lucky that I've never felt
Mm.
in danger or anything. Um, and of course, like I mean, I was picked on when I was younger and whatever. Um, I probably didn't, I don't think I realized at the time, like why I was being picked on.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I definitely was. But I think, you know, everyone I was at some point, I think. I don't
Oh
know
yeah, I
if,
think
you
everybody
know,
gets picked on about something. I mean, that's what kids are like. But how,
exactly. So
just remind us, how old are you now?
I'm 31.
Okay, and I'm
Yeah.
going to be 48 in a couple of months.
Okay.
So there is a very big difference in generational in
Yeah, for
generational
sure.
experiences between us. I mean, I was born and raised in South Africa. There was a tremendous amount of homophobia here. I think
Mhm.
there still is. I don't know. I'm not really out and about doing these things, but when I came out, and we had these like sort of almost secret little clubs, and we had to get together and do things, and holding hands with somebody in the street was something you did not entertain.
Yeah.
And you had to be really cautious about that. And I sort of was one of these. I had a lot of bravado and was sort of a, yeah, I'm gonna, whatever kind of thing. And
Yeah,
so I sort of did break that mold a few times, but I was always attracted to older women, and they would be like, yeah, no, we're not going to, you're not going to hold anything. They were just like,
yeah.
yeah, they're not having a bar of it. They were petrified for their jobs. They were
Oh wow.
petrified, yeah, for losing, like somebody would find out and they would lose their jobs. And so, yeah, I remember my
Yeah.
first major girlfriend. She was like, I sent her an email at work and she'd left for the day, and her assistant would check her emails, and it was clear. I said something loving to her, and she drove all the way back to work to delete that email, because this was before we could check stuff on our phones. Because
Oh
she was
wow.
so scared that her assistant would find out her at work, and she would lose her job.
Wow. Yeah, see, I've never had to worry about that. And but I will say, like, I grew up in Boston, so I think
Mm,
Boston is a very um I don't know, like mixed. There's a lot of different people, different cultures, like,
right.
you know, lots of people here and stuff. So I think I honestly probably grew up in a little bubble where I felt super safe. And
Mm,
whereas if I grew up in a different state, maybe like the South, I
yeah,
probably wouldn't have felt so safe. So yeah, I mean, I can't talk about the whole, you know, the whole United States, but from my experience, I've luckily have never felt that. I
which is
think,
good.
yeah, I mean, I think there were times where I didn't really tell anyone when I was younger because it was more my own like insecurities or something. I
Mhm.
wasn't ready. But I mean, after that, yeah, that was kind of like my own thing. But I've never had any like negative reactions at work or anything, or so.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
as I said to you, I sort of kind of broke a few molds and whatever, and was generally out on within my first week. I was generally out to somebody within my first week. I mean, I remember starting at the tennis organization that I worked in Perth, and I brought my girlfriend to the Christmas party, which just happened to be like, I don't know, 5 days after I started. And I'm like, whatever. I had come out in the interview. I was thinking to myself, if you're going to have a problem with my sexuality, I don't even want to be given this job. So,
Yeah,
um,
just find out at the beginning.
yeah, exactly. So, how was your experience in Australia as a gay man?
It was great. I think it's weird. I almost felt more comfortable in
Mm,
Australia. I don't know. I mean, people were, I think here in the US, you don't assume someone is gay almost. Like, or if I assume someone was gay and they're not, well, that's for some reason
Super
super
offensive.
offensive,
Yeah.
right? Whereas in Australia, I didn't find that. Like
Mm.
people would, I was with someone at the time and they would ask us, like, I remember being asked what by the clerk at the grocery store what we were doing for Valentine's Day. And I was like, are you talking to us? Like I didn't think they were talking to us because I didn't know these people and they assumed essentially that we were together,
Mm.
which I mean, we were in there all the time together. But I was just like, whoa, that's kind of nice that they just, it's okay to, I don't know, they just like assume it was okay to bring that up. And even maybe if we weren't, I wasn't gonna bite her head off. Like she didn't think she was so wrong at saying that. And I liked that.
Yeah,
It
me
was just
too.
kind of more open.
Mm.
And there were so many festivals and stuff that I mean, of course, there's like festivals here, pride parades and stuff, but I don't know. I felt like
It's a far more
everyone was open to it.
diverse, kind of divided viewpoint in the US. I mean, I've lived there as well, and people are
Yeah.
lower their voice when they talk about things because somebody next to you could just fly into a rage about it. Whereas in Australia,
Right.
it's sort of, it's not a gun culture. It's not like that kind of, let's just, and a gun culture unfortunately does make you aggressive. I mean, South Africa was always a gun culture in a lot of respects, and I was told when I went to New Zealand, and I've since realized, and I've changed it a lot, that we have a very aggressive way of speaking. South Africans' natural responses as a joke is like, I'll beat you kind of thing. And when I went to New Zealand, they were just like taken aback a bit.
Sorry,
But
what?
yeah, and I mean, when were you in Australia? What years?
2014 to 2016,
Okay, so cool. So
September
you
to
were there
September.
when I was there. I was just in a different city. I was there from
So weird.
2007 to 2017.
Wow,
And
that's so weird.
yeah, and in the whole time, like, I really never encountered, I mean, homophobia is there. You hear people
Yeah.
making, I mean, in Australia, one of the annoying sayings that a lot of the youth say is, that's so gay. And you hear it a lot, and it just means that it's lame or whatever. And
Yeah.
so you
I feel
kind of
like that's
hear
gone
this.
away a little bit.
Hopefully, yeah,
I
I think
have
so.
I can honestly say I don't hear that anymore.
Yeah,
And I
I
don't know
didn't
if
really
that's just
hear
who I
it
hang
the
around with
last
or
few years, and maybe it was also who I was hanging out with.
yeah,
But it
which
was
is good.
never concerning for me. I always used to say it's amazing because South Africa brought in marriage very early, okay, but then they were
Hmm.
also fighting an oppressive system. The new government was in apartheid, as you would say, we say apartheid, had been disbanded. And so it was, we need to open up rules, we need to open up stuff for everyone, regardless of what we think. So they had a very homophobic populace and a government that was opening up to being more diverse. Whereas in Australia, the populace were open and the
Yeah,
government was very shut off to being diverse.
100%.
Yeah.
I feel the same way about here. It's almost not that yeah, I almost felt like here the government was like, okay, it's legal, and then everyone was like mad about, like, forced to be like, you have to be accepting of it. And in Australia, people were accepting of it,
Yeah.
and then the legality came after that, and it was like, oh well,
One of the
yeah,
favorite things that
this
I
is
see
the
on
fact. I'm like,
Facebook
whatever.
is, if you don't like gay marriage, don't marry somebody who's
I
gay.
know, I know. Like, we're not forcing you to do anything.
No.
I
And we don't
continue
bite.
with
And yeah, and I mean, it was one of the funny stories that I have is when I went to New Zealand, just because of the trend, the cultural trend with the women. And I don't know if you visited, but a lot of them
yeah.
kind of just with the way that they wear their hair, the way that they dress, it's a kind of a very, what's the word I'm looking for? It's sort of a very, you just get things done kind of society. And so my ex and I arrived there, and I'm like, oh my God, all the women in New Zealand are gay, because they all looked gay based on what I was used to. And then I realized, no, it's just a cultural trend, I suppose, where there's just kind of a certain look here or there that's sort of, but I just thought all the women in New Zealand were gay because they just all looked gay. But it really, civil union was legal there when I arrived there. And then when I left New Zealand, marriage became legal. When I left Australia, marriage became legal. When I left South Africa, marriage became legal. When I left Costa Rica, marriage became legal. So anybody that
wow.
wants marriage legal in their
Yeah.
country, put me up for a few years and get me to leave, and it will become legal.
That's so funny. That's interesting.
I know. And so now what I'm interested in is, how did you approach being gay in Thailand?
I mean, so before I went to Thailand, I did look,
Mm.
or I guess I didn't necessarily have Thailand picked out. I had some options, but I did look, to see how they handle gay people, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
or what, is
What the
are
rules were,
people
like what
safe
the
or
legal
whatever?
rules were?
Yeah, and I
Mm.
honestly I don't exactly know what the laws are, but they're very I think they're very accepting. Um, I mean, there's like a gay area I never felt like I was in any danger. I don't think, yeah, and actually some of my students, so actually some of the parents knew, they just somehow, well, they just knew that I was. And some of my students overheard the parents saying something and tried to tell me in like the best English that they could, what the parents were saying. And they like stood up for me. They were mad that parents were saying things about me, which was
Wow,
interesting.
that's
Yeah, it was
awesome.
awesome. They were like 9. And then, but yeah, I mean, like lady boys are very just normal there. Um, I don't know. There's no, I didn't feel any sort of, I don't know, like I couldn't be myself there. I didn't
Right.
feel that at all. I feel like they're pretty accepting. And again, I don't know what the laws are, but I felt safe and
That's awesome.
things. Yeah, so that was good. But I did look before I went there because
Mm.
just to see what I was getting myself into.
Look, you have to. I
Um,
agree. And
you
so
have
my
to, yeah.
next question is going to be, were you concerned about being openly gay in Costa Rica? And before I get your answer, I will just say that before I went to Costa Rica, I looked to see what was going on. And I did
Mm,
find some kind of online stuff that said, you need to be careful in Costa Rica. Now, marriage is legal. And to be perfectly honest, the whole time that I was in San Jose, I mean, I knew that some people were disapproving of it, even within the
right,
school that we worked. But all of my colleagues who were from Canada and the US and whatever really couldn't care less. And we had a
right.
great bunch of people and we were just all very accepted and nobody cared. But the online articles were saying, be very careful of where you act openly gay in Costa Rica, because there are some areas where gay people are viewed as animals and you could be
Mm,
in for some trouble. So I kind of went there with the viewpoint of keep your mouth shut. I wasn't in a relationship. I wasn't looking for a relationship. I wasn't looking to date anyone, to be honest. I just finished a relationship. I just left the US where I didn't want to be. I wasn't in that space where my sexuality was something that I needed to address. But I
right.
did open up to one of our mutual friends first, and then everybody else was just kind of super cool with the teachers. But I was cautious where Costa Rica was concerned. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I looked, did a little research. I think I was more I wasn't super nervous going there, but I was more concerned just because I mean, they're super religious, and I think that's, people. I don't know, it's just not as accepted, I don't think. Um, so I was a little more hesitant. I would, yeah, I guess with the other teachers, the other English teachers, I think everyone knew and I just told everyone.
Mm.
Um, I just
I mean,
tend to
hell,
like,
we all went to gay pride. I mean,
oh yeah, that's right.
together in, I think it was July that it was
Yeah, that
in.
was
And so
fun.
we all, like a whole bunch of us went to gay, and it was huge. Like that parade was
It
huge.
was
It was waves
huge.
and waves and waves that just kept coming. People were in the bars and restaurants. We were all looking for a view. I mean, I was like, whoa, a huge
It was,
community.
yeah, that was fun. Yeah, there was a ton of people, so that was
Mm.
awesome. And I think, yeah, I mean, I just, I guess I didn't have a reason to really, other than the teachers, I didn't speak to many other people like, I don't know, about my personal life. So I don't know. I just never came about, I guess.
One
But
of
with
your
all the
students
teachers,
asked you, right?
oh yeah, yeah. One of my students didn't really know, not that they didn't know how to ask me like language barrier. They just were trying to ask me in a nice way.
Mm.
Um, and I don't think she ever finished the question. I knew what she was asking me, and I was like, "Are you asking me if I'm gay?" And she was like, "Yeah." And then I just said, "Yeah," because I think if people are asking,
Yeah.
they don't care. I think maybe I don't know,
Yeah, I
or
mean,
she
yeah,
didn't
I think
care. I
that's a
knew she didn't
correct.
care.
Yeah, I think that that's potentially
I mean, not
correct.
always,
Yeah.
but yeah. I mean, and I think she was like 14 years old or something.
Mm.
She didn't care. So yeah, she did ask me towards I think the end of when I was there.
Right.
Um,
And I mean,
yep.
I didn't tell any of my students really. I mean, I think leading up to me leaving, there were a couple of students that I was quite close to, and I kind of inferred some stuff
Yep.
basically when I was on my way to Canada. And one of the students that I taught right up until I left Canada still doesn't know, and I have no idea how she would handle it. And
Okay.
so, I mean, if I'm asked, like you, like if like I have no issues with it.
Yeah,
I'm
like I'm not gonna lie
Vanessa.
about it though.
I'm me. I have volunteered in my life. I care about other people. I am this, I'm a teacher. I have degrees in psychology. I like to do yoga, and I'm gay. Yes, and it's definitely a huge part of who I am because it's the choice of partner that I have. But it's just an aspect of me. It doesn't change me
Right.
in any way. If you liked me before, then the only reason you wouldn't like me afterwards is because of your prejudice. I mean, at the end of the day,
Right.
nothing's changed. So if you ask me,
Exactly.
I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to tell you any answer you want. I mean, I had some colleagues in South Africa, because I was open, who basically pulled me into a corner to ask me all the burning questions that they wanted to know, and I just answered them like, okay,
Yeah,
whatever you want to know.
I do the same. People, a lot of the, I wouldn't say in Costa Rica, but the other teachers in Thailand, some of them asked me a lot of questions, the English teachers,
Mm.
and they were like, "Are you okay with us asking?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't care. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't, I tell people whatever. I just,
Knowledge is
what do you want to
power,
know?"
and it
I
kind
don't,
of destigmatizes anything. The more you know, the less of an unknown it is, the less of
right.
this scary thing that it is. I mean, at the end of
Like
the
we can
day,
understand each other
at the end
more
of the day, all
than,
it boils down to is you emotionally connect in a romantic setting with a member of the same sex, not a member of the opposite sex. That's literally all it
yeah.
is. That your
Yeah,
emotional connection lies in the same gender. That's it. Nothing else about us is different.
exactly. Yeah. It's just, yeah, it's weird. Like it's a part of who I am, but it's not the only thing I am.
Exactly.
It's just happens to be one of the things. But there's a list of other things that I am too. And
Exactly. Exactly.
so, yeah,
Have you
it's,
ever felt afraid anywhere?
um, I don't, hmm, I don't think I've ever felt afraid. I wouldn't say. I mean, yeah, I feel lucky that I've never felt, but
Yeah.
also like before I went to certain places, teaching, I was going to be in Costa Rica and Thailand for a long time. So I looked into that. Other places I've gone and I didn't, but yeah, so I don't know. I
Mm,
guess I just didn't look, but I knew I wasn't going to be there for a long time. So I didn't,
yeah.
I wasn't, if I just don't say anything, then you know what I mean?
Mm,
It'll be fine, I guess. But yeah, I can't say I've felt in danger or anything
mm.
or afraid.
I mean,
Um,
I've been in positions where I would feel afraid if I had been openly, if I'd grabbed a woman's hand or done something. There are definitely places and times in my life where I would have been afraid if I'd openly done anything in that moment. But you
right,
learn, I mean, as a South African, first of all, it was an extremely volatile country. So I was, you were learned to look, you were taught to basically look around wherever you went, regardless of what you were doing, because you had to be
right,
cautious. So I kind of had that cautious nature. And then I also was sort of coming out in a time that was many years before a lot of the younger generation now, where things were very different. And I was in a small town minded city, which
hmm,
was a city, but it had a small town mentality. And so I was always relatively cautious, but I was also a hellcat who was just like, well, if you don't like it. But I knew when to be if you don't like
right,
it. As I've got
right,
older, I
exactly.
really haven't felt the need to make a stand. I just am who I am. Ask me if you want to. I'm going to hold her hand if I want to. I'm going to be cautious of where I am. But
Right. Yeah, like, yeah, I guess in different places or unfamiliar places,
mm,
I mean, I'm aware of my surroundings, but I wouldn't say it's because I'm gay. I just feel like, yeah, I look, you know, keep an eye out of what's going on if I'm in an unfamiliar place. But yeah, I've never, there's been, I don't know, people have said stuff like I said earlier, and
mm.
but never coming after me or anything. I don't know. Yeah, I guess
And
I
look, I
don't
mean,
know.
I felt super, super, super fine in Canada. I think I mean,
Oh
you've been
yeah,
there
for
many
sure.
times. You've got family in Canada. There was no issues there. I never
Yeah.
felt worried in San Antonio, which is quite a sort of a bit of a more kind of right wing area in certain respects. I mean, I
Yeah.
remember walking down the river walk, holding my partner's hand, and we got some looks, and I'd never paid that much attention to looks. I just kind of smiled because I know they're coming, but it also could have been because physically we were the most unmatched pair ever. I mean, we looked bizarre no matter what place you put us in physically as a couple.
Yeah.
So I think that potentially may have been where some of the looks came from. But I'm like you. I think we're kind of lucky in, or maybe it's just the way we view it, that we just haven't had.
Yeah, I'm wondering, like, am I just naive that I just like or oblivious, kind of
And to be
that I
perfectly
haven't
honest, I kind
noticed?
of like a little
But
bit of oblivion. I think
yeah.
oblivious in a lot of respects is the best way to be, because you kind of have a nonchalant attitude. Like, um, I don't have any issues with straight people. I don't have any issues with any kind of person. I just like
Right.
people to be tolerant. And so my viewpoint is, you're not me. You're not in my relationship. If you have an issue with it, if you want to sit down and discuss why, I'm happy to talk to you about it. But if you're just going to hate me for that, then we're not going to be friends anyway. So
Hmm.
you're just wasting your energy hating something that has nothing to do with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Like I don't get the people that take energy out of their or like time out of their life to just hate me.
Look, I
Like
understand it
why?
because I mean, I was raised in an
Uh,
extremely racist country in an extremely racist environment. I
Yeah.
have worked my way out of that very much so by
Right.
educating myself and living in different places and changing that pattern. I understand hate and I understand being caught up in it. I'm just not going to entertain it as an object of hate.
Hmm. Yeah.
You can have your
That's a
hatred.
good way to be.
You're just wasting your own energy because I'm not absorbing it.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't, I guess, yeah, you have to be, I mean, I guess this goes with a lot of different things, but you have to be tough about it. Like, I've had shit said or things said to me, and
Mm.
yeah, you just can't
You just have
let
to
it get to you, I
depersonalize it. I
guess.
mean, hatred is hatred. It's the same in every
Yeah.
form. It's fear. It's a bit of fear. It's a bit of ignorance about something you don't know anything about, and or something that
Hmm.
you think might threaten you in some way. And when you get to the bottom
Yeah.
of any form of hate, you realize that all of those fears are unfounded, regardless of what it
Hmm.
is. And so I just refuse. I just depersonalize it. I'm just not that concerned. I mean, I think for any gay person, the hatred or the distaste from family members that you may have to deal with will obviously hit you much harder because there's a personal connection there
Yeah.
where you love those people and that becomes painful to work through. And you will have, and I will have, I mean, my family have been pretty good. But I've got
Yeah.
lots
I've
of
been
friends who were
lucky.
kicked out of homes and just don't see their family anymore. And it's just so sad.
Yeah. Yeah. It's awful. Like, I've been with family, I've been very lucky. Like,
Mm.
I think everyone knew already. Um, but yeah, it just wasn't an issue. Almost like we never even talked about it. It was just kind
Mm.
of, uh, it just became, I don't know.
The
It
norm, like
just was a
some
thing.
level of the
Yeah.
norm for you within that family dynamic.
Yeah. Like, I never had to, I mean, like, extended family, I never had to tell. I don't remember. I don't think I ever
Right.
told anyone. I just kind
Oh,
of
I mean,
started
I
talking
have
about certain
extended
things. And
family in the UK, and they didn't talk to me for years and years and years because of
wow,
it, basically.
that's
And
crazy.
they were kind of a bit of a non-event in my life anyway, so it really didn't affect me at all. But
Yeah.
and this is not saying that people who are, I've got a lot of super Christian friends who are gay and who are gay friendly. They're just super Christian. And I just think it was very, very small world, very small reality. And it was just a problem for them. And it was not a problem for me. So, but I want to
Right.
ask you because I truly believe that it is. Do you think the world is changing on sort of the LGBTQ plus trajectory?
Yeah, I think, yeah, I do feel like obviously more and more countries are legalizing it. And I mean, there are obviously still some countries that it's totally not okay. But
Right.
I think especially here, there's people, I mean, I think there's a lot of things with transgender people who are, it's like illegal to discriminate against them. Or I mean, I should know more specific things, but um they're being more protected and kind of,
Yeah.
I just feel like there's more and more things coming out to protect the LGBT community. And
Yeah.
like, you
Like a
can't get
lot of
fired for being
restaurants and
gay. And
bars and stuff like that are trying to go, well, not a lot, but there are some that are leading the way by making all bathrooms unisex so that nobody has to
mhm,
worry about what bathroom they walk into and
right.
to make it sort of a
Which
more
like,
kind of,
yeah, which for the normal person like doesn't seem, I don't know, it might be confusing or it doesn't seem like a big deal, but it is. It's just there are so many people who might feel uncomfortable,
but every
and
Starbucks
that
has
will
a
help.
unisex bathroom. Like every
Right,
Starbucks that I've ever gone into has two bathrooms and it's unisex. You go in,
right.
there's
Because like
everything
who
is
cares?
inside that one bathroom. It's not like you have to go in and there's a row of stalls. It's an
Yeah,
individual bathroom where you close the door and nobody bats an
I
eye when
know.
they go to a
I
Starbucks
know.
bathroom. But the moment you make something unisex and you're doing it just to help out
It's
a
the
certain member,
change.
yeah,
It's like we're changing the bathroom from men to unisex. Well, why are we changing? You know what I mean? Like people get mad that we're changing it for this person. Well, who cares? It just, like you said, the Starbucks bathrooms have always been unisex.
Yeah.
But when you start to change something,
Yeah. For a
people get
reason.
really
Yeah.
mad about it.
Yeah.
Exactly. So in a year they'll forget it, you know, they'll forget all about it. But um yeah, I do feel like people are being more protected, which is awesome. And I don't know, you see commercials, which is like, for me is,
Yeah.
and I mean, I'm 31. For me, that's crazy to see me on the TV, essentially. You know, regular like straight people don't think of that. Like
No.
they're represented on the TV, for example, all the time. Well, or I don't know, one of them was like Campbell's, I think. They made a commercial. Well, there's a gay like male couple, and I'm like, whoa, that's me on
I saw
TV
that when
for
I
the
was in
first
Canada.
time or
I saw
whatever.
that it was when I was in Canada, like, and I don't remember seeing a commercial in Australia. I left in 2017 with same-sex people in it. It probably was.
Mhm.
I didn't watch a lot of TV. You know,
Yeah, yeah, me neither.
I watched a lot of stuff on my laptop where there were no commercials, and so I didn't really watch a lot. And I watched a lot. I watched some of it because, you know, I'm a football fan and stuff like that. In in Canada, if you want to watch the games live, you have to watch the commercials. And so I was seeing
Yeah,
that, and I was agree with you. I was like, this is so super cool.
it's just, it doesn't seem like it would be a big thing, but it is. It's like you just see yourself for the first time on TV or like in a magazine or, you know, whatever. And you're just like, whoa, it's, you matter. Or you're like, you are just, not even that we are
Represented.
being singled out. Yeah, we're
You're just
represented
represented as a
just like everyone
normal part
else.
of society. That it
Exactly,
just happens
exactly,
to be two men or two women that are sharing that soup instead of a man and a woman. And
exactly.
it's just being used as just a normal, just a representation, which I think a lot of
Yeah.
minority groups don't see. And you hear it a lot from the Black community in the US who,
Mhm.
you know, had to fight where there was nothing in the 80s. I mean, there was the Cosby Show, and then, you know, it was like Family Matters and a few things like in the 90s and stuff like that. But that community had to fight
Yeah,
really, really hard to get representation.
to get
And
that
when it
little
was
bit.
initially, it was usually like the representation that white people would have of the African American community, as
Mhm.
opposed to what the African American community was actually like. And now
Right,
there's so much more representation, but they've had to fight for it. And you
right.
listen to them talking, and they'll say, you know, we're still fighting for our own representation in the large scale of things. So yeah, I mean, for any
Right.
marginalized group.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, I think that has, I don't know, there are a lot of people who don't understand that or think everything's fine. And it's like, I think because we're part of a group, you know, we've had to fight for that stuff. I don't know. I just, you can kind of, you relate, like so much more to any, yeah, any marginalized group. So yeah, definitely you can relate and connect your
Yeah.
own. I don't
And
know
I
where I
want to
was
give
going with that.
kudos. I want to give kudos to like the younger generation, because the one thing that frustrates me, and the older generation always does it well. We fought for the rights so that you could do, and every older generation does that. And I wish they'd stop doing it. And I specifically don't do it. And yes, I was back there on the lines, and yes, I was a little butch bouncer at a LGBTQ film festival and stuff when I was younger. And yes, we had more restrictions and stuff like that. But there's absolutely no point in browbeating younger people, you know, to basically say, well, your life is the courtesy of me. No,
Mhm.
every generation fights for something that the next generation benefits from. But the younger generation have actually just turned around unapologetically and said, look, we're gender fluid, we're this, we're that, we're the
Yeah.
next thing. Really don't care whether it works for you or not.
Yeah,
And they're attacking the
it's really
boomers.
awesome.
Unfortunately, poor boomers. It's like, yeah, be a boomer, whatever. We're not really not concerned about your concern. We're not concerned about how you feel about it. We're just going to be. And they
Yeah,
honestly have just been, and maybe, yes, there's generations of people that paved the way for the younger generation to do that. Absolutely. In every marginalized group in the world has had generations of people fighting before them, but they have basically just turned around and said, we really don't care. So good luck with
yeah,
it. And I've
it's
got to give them
awesome.
credit. I've got to give them credit. They're on TikTok, they're on YouTube, just being who they are and
Yeah.
really unapologetic at all. Like my generation is apologetic. Hi, yeah, I am. Yes, I'm a lesbian and stuff like that. And, just, I'll, stay away from them if they don't like it. And the younger generation are like, yeah, you can move because I'm staying here. And I really like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Yeah, it's really awesome. It's like, because I think of how I was when I was, in high school. Well, I was, you know, you just, I don't know, I was so shy or whatever. All these young kids are just, they're, I don't know. I feel like I'm sure it obviously still exists, but yeah, they're on TikTok. They're putting themselves out there more than I could ever
Mm,
imagine having like doing that when I was their age. It's
yeah.
crazy. They're just not, they couldn't care less. They're just in whatever it is, they're just, yeah, they don't, it's awesome. They're so, I don't know, they're like brave. They're braver than I ever was.
And
Um,
and they are brave, but also at the same time, I think they're just being them. And that's one of the things that
yeah.
that's why I also have future, like I have this.
And people care less that they're,
Right. And they're same people of their own generation really don't care. And it makes me
yeah,
feel good that this is the generation that's going to move forward in the world,
yeah,
and just kind
they're
of
making
bring
big
that sort of
changes.
tolerance into everything that they do. And that's why I have so much hope for kind of the future. And I mean, the world has become so much more tolerant in my lifetime. And
Yeah,
I was when I first started
I see it
working,
too.
I was a couple of the bosses had to warn the staff to just be cautious not to say anything around me, just in case I brought it to HR or whatever, there was discrimination. And I had
Oh
absolutely
wow.
zero intention of kind of doing that. It was sort of like a little bit of more of like fear. But I mean, yeah, I've seen a lot of change in my
Yeah.
life.
I mean, even, yeah, I mean, I have, and it's like, yeah, I definitely think there's so much change
Mm.
has happened, is still happening, and yeah, like you said, this young generation they're gonna kill it. Like they're just going after or
Yeah.
just doing whatever makes them happy. They don't care about
Mm.
what other people think about them, which is awesome.
And you still, I mean,
They
we
will
still
make
need to
changes.
exercise caution. I wouldn't go to a
Oh, for sure.
small town gun toting community and wander around holding my girlfriend's hand. I mean, it's just not something that I'm
Right.
going to do because
You
I don't want to face
you're
the
asking
consequences.
for it and like,
You kind of
yeah,
are in some
kind of.
respects. I mean, that there's a potential that that community is going to be more intolerant than if you were wandering around in a big city. But
Yeah.
to kind of bring this to a close, I just want to say that you are 17 years my junior. And the fact that you and I have had relatively similar experiences in the fact that you've lived in 4 countries, I've lived in 6, we've done some traveling, and that we haven't felt a predominant wave of fear over a
Mm.
predominant wave of we're just going to be who we are, just makes me happy. It just makes me happy. Maybe we're anomalies that just had a good go of it. And anybody out there who's listening, who's watching, if you like have anything that you want to share or add, please like add it to any comment section, and I am more than happy to revisit this in a later podcast and talk to
Yeah.
anybody else who wants to talk about their issues that may be different, but just from this conversation with a lesbian woman and a gay man, 17 years apart, born in two different hemispheres, in two different countries, on two different continents, having fairly similar experiences, just makes me happy for the future.
Yeah, I mean, I would be interested to see what people have to say in your comments too. I think, yeah, I mean, I definitely, if you're in a similar situation, like don't let it deter you from, branching out or traveling and meeting people, and kind of don't feel like you have to hide. Because I mean, even not living in certain places, just there were places that I just traveled to. New Zealand was one of them. I was there for a month and I was there alone. And I traveled I just did like a hop on, hop off bus sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone I met was just super accepting. And that was like my first solo trip. And I mean, people were like making jokes, but in a good way. They were just like, I don't know, they were like having fun. It wasn't offensive at all. It was like,
but I don't take offense to that either.
driver.
My viewpoint is
either.
if you're making jokes, then there's definitely a level of acceptance there, depending on the intention of the jokes. For me, it comes down to intention. And, I'm going to make, if I'm going to tease you about something, we're all going to tease each other about something. I'm going to tease you about something. I don't know, maybe it's your hair, maybe it's, we tease each other. And there's the saying in English, you only tease the ones you love. And so there's kind of this acceptance that comes with a gentle, fun teasing. It comes down to intention. Is somebody trying to belittle you, or are they just trying to join an acceptance ring with you?
Yeah, maybe I'm trying to, I don't know if teasing is the right word, because I feel like it has a negative like connotation.
Yeah,
whatever,
maybe. I mean, I don't know.
But,
if you live in Australia, it can't have a negative connotation, because they're larrikins. I mean, they tease all the time. That's the national pastime, is just to tease each other, and they don't take a lot of offense at it. So it's just kind of like a teasing culture. So you are right. It depends on which country you are in as to how much power the word tease has. Because I spent 10 years in Australia, for me, it's just a very bland kind of connotation for me.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I don't take offense to much, I feel like. But yeah, I mean, just don't be afraid of getting out there. I mean, everyone I've met really has been super, they couldn't care less. They just, and things just carried on. And I almost like, I don't know, I would just talk about people I don't know, people I was dating or whatever. I wouldn't even like say I was gay. I would just kind of speak about it, like just talk about, and it was just like, oh yeah, like he works in this and this, and then they were like, oh okay. I didn't.
I mean, when you're teaching, I teach English as a second language. I have to play the pronoun game. You have to. They, them, them. You do. There's just certain situations where I don't have any issues about my sexuality. I'm a good teacher. I don't want somebody else to
I've definitely done that.
Feel that they can't be taught by me anymore, simply because of something that has no consequence on my ability to teach. I'm a good teacher. I'm going to teach you. I have respect for you, regardless of what your viewpoints are. If you ask me a question where a pronoun needs to be found, I'm going to use they and them, just because for me in that job, it's more of a professional thing. And it's also, I'm dealing with a lot of cultures. If I was working in an office in the US or Canada or Australia or New Zealand or here in South Africa, I wouldn't play the pronoun game. But because I deal with so many cultures, I do.
Yeah, totally. I've done the same thing. It's just it's a different relationship with your students, like more professional. And then I don't know. But yeah, with people, in a more relaxed situation, I guess. just no problems here.
Awesome. Awesome. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Thank
well,
you
thank you.
so much for coming
Thank
on
you.
today and sharing your story and your
Yeah,
side
hopefully
of
it helps people.
things. I hope so too. I really do.
Yeah,
I mean, I just don't want anybody who identifies as any member of the LGBTQ plus community to just feel that that's something that's going to stop them in their journey. And for those that are
right.
potentially refugees or potentially leaving their countries because they identify as part of the community, where you're going, you will be okay. Like,
Yeah,
that's just what I want them to know. Like, where you're
it's
going, you will be okay.
more accepting than you might think. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you're
For sure.
feeling that you need to leave your country because of that issue, where you're going, you will be okay. You will be okay.
Yeah.
So just don't worry about it.
Yeah. Exactly.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for listening. And if you want to see the video version of this podcast and you're listening to the audio version, please go to my YouTube channel, International Immigrant, and also follow me on Instagram, international__immigrant. As I mentioned during the podcast, if you have any questions or you just want to make any comments, please just put them in the comment section on any of my platforms. And I'd be happy to address them or chat about them in a future podcast. And so from my international immigrant journey to yours, see you next time.